Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Today I have another fascinating channeling from Quo. Quo is a group of higher density beings channeled through LL Research. They are a conglomeration of beings from different densities that answer questions of a spiritual nature. I have found many of these readings to be quite profound. I want to continue reading these, and if you're interested, we will definitely read them. There's lots of new channelings that are coming out. Today's sort of deals with a variety of topics, including how to align with the full moon, accepting the self in serving others, waking up early, black holes, plant substances for spiritual evolution, dealing with negative energy in the news, signs from guides, and the doubling effect. We begin with Jim channeling. I am Quo, and am with this instrument at this time. It is our honor to greet each of you in the love and the light of the one infinite creator, of who we are all a part. And we would this afternoon ask that you take the words that we speak through each instrument with what you might call a grain of salt, so that those words which ring in harmony with your own feelings about your own nature, your spiritual journey, and why you're here on earth at this time may be utilized as you will, leaving behind those that do not ring of truth. This is a favor which we perpetually ask, for it allows us to speak more clearly and openly that which we have to share in response to your queries. At this time, we would ask if there is a query with which we may begin. Question. Quo. We currently are in full moon here, and those of us who are not farmers, how can we best take advantage of the phases of the moon in our lives? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. As you are aware, the various bodies of energy that occupy a place within your solar system each have a certain kind of offering of vibrations of beingness and unity that may be utilized by those who create a path of desire with that bodily entity. In this case, the moon, which orbits this planet, and asks that the energies, the full moon energies, come into the system of chakras or energy centers and move upward in a fashion that is congruent with your desire to move further in your spiritual journey at this time. You may desire then to move into harmony with one other person in the orange ray energy center of individual eccentricities and qualities that allow you to express yourself as an individual being in relationship with one other individual who is close to you and with whom you would like to experience a more harmonious relationship. You may ask those energies of the full moon to move higher into the yellow ray energy center so that the group energies that you are a part of might be enhanced, and that the group of entities with which you meet in one way or another in a spiritual sense may feel the expansion of the togetherness, the unity of the group, the focusing of the purpose to go forward together on the spiritual journey. You may ask those energies to move even higher to the green ray energy center, to your heart, to that unconditional love that sees all as the creator. And you may then ask that these energies move out of your heart into those around you, not just in your family or your community, but move around the world to whatever location you feel needs the energies of love, acceptance, in seeing of each other as the creator. You may ask that those energies of the full moon move into your blue ray energy center, that of communication, that of clear communication, that of inspiration, that of sharing with anyone who would care to know about your spiritual journey, more of what makes you tick, shall we say, in a spiritual sense, so that you are able to speak to any person that asks you a question, whether it is a friend, a neighbor, a stranger on the street, or any person whatsoever that requests any kind of spiritually oriented kind of information. You may also ask that these energies move into your indigo ray chakra, that known as the third eye, so that there is what you may call the ability to create changes in your consciousness at will, the ability to expand your awareness of who you are and why you are here, that you are a part of the intelligent energy of the one infinite creator that is now residing in your indigo energy center. You may also ask that these energies move into your violet ray chakra, so that the overall sacred nature of each moment that is expressed in the Creator's intelligent infinity becomes available to you in a way which you can perceive in a unique fashion, these are possibilities that you may utilize when the moon is in its full stage of glowing freely and inspirationally within the sky and within your very being. Is there a further query, my brother? Thank you, Quo. No. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. Is there another query at this time? Question. Quo, I've been trying to apply the disciplines of the personality, and the knowing myself seems easy for me to see people around me that have their catalysts and their pain and their events in life happening, and that helps me to get to know myself. I feel like I'm stumbling at the accepting myself portion, where it's almost like I get stuck into their pain and in things, and not being able to accept in myself those things, even though that other person is my other self. I don't self-analyze enough, almost like I'm spiritually bypassing the lessons that I need to learn. I'm just trying to help others to get through theirs. Is there any guidance or pointers that you could give me in that area? I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my sister. As a spiritual seeker of truth, you are traveling a journey which seems to focus more upon yourself as a being of unknown quality that then moves in a fashion to relate with others in a way that allows you to know more of yourself as you know more of the others. This is a process which you may utilize in the overall gaining of knowledge about who you truly are. You, in truth, are a portion of the one infinite creator that has chosen to enter the third density illusion at this time with what you would call choices made previous to the incarnation that would allow you to move forward on your spiritual path. These pre-incarnative choices are ways that you may see yourself in a manner that seems less appropriate or desirable than you would consciously wish. However, as you have chosen the matter of seeing yourself in that way, you can look outward at those about you and see how they move in their spiritual journeys and be more accepting of them. For you know that they are exercising their free will and expressing the nature of the Creator in their own being in a unique fashion. It is often easier for the spiritual seeker of truth to accept another's nature or way of traveling the spiritual path than it is to accept one's own beingness and journey of seeing the evolution of your mind, your body, and your spirit. Eventually, as you see what we might call the mirroring effect from those about you, showing you how they move forward in what seems to you to be an acceptable fashion, then you may be able to make progress in your own work in consciousness that sees you as acceptable, that sees you as being as they, traveling a path of reunification with the one infinite creator through the various incarnations you have had in this life and in the incarnation that now is the culmination of your previous incarnations. To further drive home, shall we say, the feeling and the acceptance of yourself as being one which is whole and complete, healed of any misperceptions that may be a path to forgiveness of self and acceptance of self. Is there a further query, my sister? No, Quo, that was beautiful, thank you. I am Quo, and we thank you, my sister. At this time, we will transfer this contact to the one known as Austin. We are those of Quo. I am Quo, and am now with this instrument. As we settle into this instrument's field, we would offer a short message to allow the deepening of our connection with this instrument. And that message is in reference to the sharing of this circle prior to us joining you. We have witnessed the openness and vulnerability and deep emotion involved in this sharing, and we find ourselves moved and called to it and by it. We would encourage each present to recollect on those things shared, for one would notice that it was not just pleasing or comfortable things, but all aspects of your creation brought into this era of light, to this presence that you each cultivate within your hearts. And though the topics discussed ranged from beautiful to difficult to the most extreme that you may experience within your reality, each formed a facet of a crystal created by your coming together. This act of coming together and sharing is more and more important upon your journeys and in your world as your planet threads the difficult path through the transition into fourth density. By coming together, you allow the light of fourth density to be manifest through this co-created crystal that then shines through each of you as you go back out into your world and walk with a slightly lighter step and a slightly more open heart, able to share the love and the light of the one infinite Creator, thanks to the empowering act of your sharing in this circle. At this time, we would ask if there is a query to which we may respond. Question: Quo, this is Willis, and often each morning I wake up at 3:15 a.m. Nothing has occurred during that time, but I do know in my seeking and my searching, when I wake, like they've raised the question whether or not this is a moment, a time, which, I can receive of the universe, of my guides, or whatever. What is the significance of that moment, and what should I do? I am Quo, and am aware of the query, my brother. Indeed, we find that there are those within your third density with similar configurations to you that incline them to rise early, before the hustle of the world begins, and before the sun peaks and shines its light upon the creation. And in that quietness before waking and the beginning of the day, there is a sacred quality, a presence that can be manifested as you come out of the sleeping state. And it was in that sleeping state that you made contact with the unconscious portion of yourself that is fully aware of your oneness with the Creator. And you bring that awareness into your conscious state as you wake. And this sacred silence that you discover in the morning, that calls you to seek and to ask the Creator to be present with you. The act of this seeking is empowered by that presence that you brought with you from your sleeping state. To your question of what can you do within this state and in this time, we encourage you to seek deep within your own heart. For each particular act, each act of seeking itself is individual to the seeker. And for you, this may be an act of deep prayer or meditation. For another, it may be an act of creativity, or it may be an act of physical activity. There is no single answer to this. And we encourage you in particular, my brother, to ask the heart what it is wanting you to perform in this sacred space as you, in your own journey, are traveling through a certain portal or transition into a new mode of being and a new mode of seeking. There's a vast potential ahead of you, that if you utilize this sacred space, the answers that you will find will lead you to a certain grand majesty that you have cultivated throughout your own life, and you will begin to bear fruits that are new and exciting through this period of transition. Is there a follow-up to this query, my brother? No. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. Is there another query to which we may respond? Question. Quo, I believe in a prior session some time ago, you all had remarked on black holes and how it's the end point and the beginning point, so to speak. And please correct me if I'm wrong in what I recall with that. What I was wondering, are the black holes that we see or that we detect, so to speak, on our plane of existence, are all of those representing different beings just like us who have gone through what we're going through now, the same octave, so to speak? Or is this something that's unique to our experience? And I'm not even sure if I'm asking the question correctly, but if you could give any thoughts to that, I would appreciate it. I am Quo, and I am aware of the query, my sister. Indeed, this topic is quite difficult to address within your language and from the perspective of your veiled third density. For much of your perception is limited, particularly within your culture, to the material that makes up your universe. Much of what you as a society and as individuals understand of the phenomenon of the black hole is limited to a particular view that your scientific institutions have determined based on their own investigations of the strictly material aspect of your universe. This has created a somewhat confused understanding, not only due to the slight misperceptions and distortions within your scientific understanding of aspects of the black hole, such as gravity and light, but also because your experience within the third density is designed to allow for mystery to be profoundly impactful on your journey, and for you to have a full understanding or even an adequate understanding of such mysteries as the black hole would limit the impact of that mystery on your seeking. However, we can comment somewhat using this perspective and deepening our understanding of this phenomenon, in that indeed the black hole represents, from the perspective of your illusion and beyond, a certain singularity or endpoint of spiritual seeking. And this can be seen in the symbolic nature of how such entities draw in what can be classified as an infinite way, the light of the Creator within your universe. The infinite capacity of this creates a somewhat mathematical confusion for you and your physicists, and creates a circumstance that is nearly impossible for you to wrap your head around from a third density perspective. But if you look at the so-called mathematical interpretations of the black hole, you may notice within the works of some of your great scientists and thinkers that there is a mathematical necessity for a corresponding what has been called white hole. These white hole phenomenon have not been seen with your instrumentation and cannot be detected by you despite all of your society's efforts to increase your ability to perceive the material world. And within this mathematical reality, there is the necessity for a correspondence to this black hole, yet this cannot be seen. There is a hint as to where this mystery is attempting to lead you, that within the black hole and how you conceive of the black hole, it is asking you to understand the depth of not just the material realm, but the spiritual realm. Not just your examination of space-time, but of time-space. And not just those things that can be seen, but those that are unseen. And that these mathematical inclinations reveal much to you that will not be detected simply through the material seeking. It is through this lead or this mystery that the answer to your question or the illumination of the confusion within your question can be found, that the black hole and the gravity that it expresses is slightly misunderstood within your society. And there is a spiritual component to this that, if examined, not just by you individually, but by your society and your culture, may be revealed as to the nature of your spiritual reality that your science fails to perceive. Is there a follow-up to this query, my sister? Oh no, that actually answers my question. Thank you, Quo. We are Quo, and we thank you, my sister. At this time, we will transfer the contact to the one known as Gary. We are Quo. We are those known to you as the principle of Quo, and we greet you on what is this Saturday afternoon to you. We are receptive to and enjoying of your energies as we blend ours with yours in an act which gives praise and thanksgiving to the glory and the majesty of the One as it manifests in this particularly unique circumstance of this moment, one of many, many along your journey to come and your journey that was. At this time, we would ask the circle if there is a query to which we may reply. We are those of Quo. Question. I have a question. Thank you for taking the question and your presence here. Would you be willing to comment on the utility and advisability of use of mind-altering plant substances in spiritual evolution? Thank you. We are happy to take your query and grateful for it, my sister, and thank you for asking it. We would, in examining this phenomena, suggest a careful examination of the self's intentions, the self's needs, and the self's capacities when approaching this question, for this is a tool of consciousness of considerable power, as you may know, and gift, as you may intuit. This tool, which is made available to your peoples, has the capacity to open the self to the universe in various ways, beginning with the thinning and piercing of the veil, such that the content and energies of that deep mind, that unconscious mind, may become available to the conscious mind in one form or another, experienced uniquely by the unique individual and the unique sacred medicine which they are using. That content may emerge to a self that witnesses it, or may envelope and encompass and consume the self in a symbolic drama or narrative or journey which the self undergoes. But this is not at random when approached carefully and conscientiously with considerable intention and reverence for the process, in alignment with the soul and the Creator within, always beginning and ending in the Creator. No, my friends, this is not random, not just a phenomena of a neurobiological dimension that produces, as some among your peoples would call it, hallucination without meaning or connection. No. Instead, for they who approach this with the open heart and intention, what may be possible for the self is a profound opening, an opportunity for self-discovery, for contact with those deeper and expanded layers of self, which may be normally, as you perceive it, outside of the purview of the conscious waking experience of the self. And in this discovery may await challenges to the conscious mind, challenge of many variety, challenge of the assumptions one holds about the nature of reality and the defining contours of the self, challenge in terms of that which is gifted to the conscious mind, which may have been repressed or forgotten, challenge in the facing of self with self, of those perhaps imbalanced or neglected or unloved portions of the self. For the journey upon which one embarks with the aid of these sacred technologies, you might call them, is one of a movement toward wholeness of being, toward invitation into the present moment, and outside of the illusionary journey of time across which the self's attention and consciousness is usually spread in creating an illusory construct and sense of self. This journey invites one into wholeness and to the fullness of being, into a more and more holistic understanding of the self. It is a journey of healing, of reconnection, and in that healing one may, for a time, in this carefully constructed container or setting, open the doorway to intelligent infinity, open to that which is beyond the boundaries of the finite self, and who and what the self thinks it is, and who and what the self thinks reality is, into the great, vast, silent, and still unknown, not necessarily for the purpose of a splendid or a fantastic experience, though these experiences are and can indeed be fantastic to the conscious mind, but for the purpose of restoration of that self which has, in the course of its journey, distorted its energy configurations through likely the many injuries and misapprehensions and misapplications of the Creator's energy. Along the way, the self opens its shell like armoring of the violet-red spectrum, such that it may allow a stream into its seeming separate ecosystem of a mind-body-spirit complex of source and source energy, that it may be availed of a new opportunity to see the self and let the self be healed. Again, we caution, as with any tool that is powerful, that this power has the potential to act, you may say, harmfully, and in unintended ways toward a self who has not carefully and reverentially approached this power. We would encourage such a student wishing to make use of this sacred opportunity to do their study and to converse with those more experienced in these ways, to not abuse such opportunities, and always, before and after, to do the work in consciousness. For one who opens the self to a greater intensity of light is then responsible for that greater intensity. And this is not to frighten the self who has done this inner preparatory work and who commits to all the work that may come afterwards, which may continue to be challenging in terms of what was unearthed, what is discovered. For such a student, they may safely integrate this new and deeper understanding of self and find peace within. Perhaps where there was conflict or forgiveness, where there was its lack, or the healing of a relationship which has been torn asunder, and so forth, among the various benefits that come from a self who is separate and suffering, who then steps into that verdant paradise of wholeness and unconditional love for self and for all beings. These tools are gifts to be appreciated and to be used carefully. As this instrument was recently discussing such matters with a fellow traveler upon the path, it may even be said that some of these particular sacred plant medicines may be a part of the Gaian mind, which is offered to those of third density as a means of communication and invitation to the return and realignment with your Mother Earth, that you and her consciousness may be aligned in harmony and in resonance, that you, as was true in this instrument's somewhat recent experience with these medicines, are invited to release that state of consciousness of your, we correct this instrument, are invited to step away from that conceptual world which you inhabit, which separates you from what we can somewhat crudely describe as the real world, into a connection with the organic cosmos and universe. For you, my friends, are inhabiting a somewhat or severely estranged universe of concept and separation, wherein you believe you look around you and see and sense and take in the world with your perceptive and cognitive faculties, but you instead drift and dance within a world of concept that does not see the oneness and the face of God, and that is present in each moment. May we ask if there's a follow-up to this question, my sister? We hear there's a quote. Yes, quote. Would a helpful tool for using these plant medicines at any time is meditation, perhaps a good preparatory activity to protect the sanctity and respect the power of these medications? We are those of Quo and are happy, my sister, that you have named this near universally helpful and applicable method for engaging one's spiritual journey. We do not have one-size-fits-all mythologies. We correct this instrument methodologies or prescriptions to offer the self, but we can indeed strongly encourage this particular practice as a means of preparing the self. Indeed, we would encourage any considering the question on whether embarking on such a journey and leaving the, shall we say, shores of consensus reality into this strange and unknown world offered by these entheogens, as some among your peoples call them, that they spend time in this inner sanctum of meditation, seeking that counsel, asking into the silence about the appropriateness and use of this journey and about the self's intentions in undertaking this particular work in consciousness. And then leaning into that silence, trusting that the answer will come. It is well generally for any deepened work in conscious or work with the spirit complex to clear the mental jumble, to bring the attention into focus, to become still in mind and body, that the self may hear the still small voice of the Creator, that the self may be receptive to that which is least distorted of you, that being the spirit complex and the infinite wisdom available therein. We may go a step further and suggest as well that meditation could be usefully and most fruitfully used as the starting point of the use of this particular medicine as well. As this spoken to your query, my sister, thank you, Quo. I have deep appreciation for those of Quo for this profound and useful teaching. Thank you. We thank you, my sister, and appreciate the wisdom that we gleaned from listening to each of you in the circle this day. In one respect, you of third density are but children in the sense of the universe and that which is veiled from your perception. But in the other sense, you are aged and old along the path, more wise than you know, and spiritually mature. You have the answers within you. We only offer you some food for thought. At this time, we would transfer our contact to the one known as Jim. We are those known to you as Quo. I am Quo, and again with this instrument, we would ask if there is another query to which we may speak. Gary asks, Quo, I have a question and some follow-up to this thread about sacred plant medicines. They obviously harbor the opportunities to accelerate the spiritual journey, but how necessary are they? I want to ask, basically, can the opportunities that they make available to the conscious mind, are they the same opportunities available to one who engages in spiritual practice and the disciplines of the personality without recourse to those particular tools? I am Quo, and I am aware of your query, my brother. We find that there are a great variety of spiritual practices and techniques of moving one's evolution of mind, body, and spirit forward within your third density illusion. This is an illusion which depends upon the veil of forgetting, you might say, that each passes through as you enter the incarnation with a plan for your own evolution that you have created yourself, and with those who are guides along with your higher self. Each path, then, has the ability to move one forward into the opening of the heart in unconditional love, which is the basic requirement for being able to graduate your third density into the fourth density of love and understanding. Within the choices that one makes previous to the incarnation as to how the path shall unfold, there are opportunities for the exercise of what you know is free will choice, so that you may, if you feel it is necessary for you on your spiritual path, engage in the utilization of the plant medicines of one kind or another, where they have the ability to accelerate for a certain period of time one's grasp of the nature of reality as being unity, the nature of the creation as being unity, the nature of the self as being unity with all. Therefore, if it is desired by the seeker of truth to be able to perceive that in a more condensed or intense fashion by the utilization of plant medicines, it is totally the free will of each entity to do so. There is, however, the increased responsibility to use the realizations that come from the use of such plant medicines in a manner which exercises what we have called the law of responsibility. That is, when one advances on a path of seeking the one infinite creator within the self, and within all other selves, there must be the corresponding exercise of seeing all as the self, as the creator. This is an increased responsibility that comes with each utilization of such medicine. It is, as we have said, that which is totally the free will choice, and is that which may be put into motion by any seeker of truth. However, we also emphasize that it is not necessary type of advancement of understanding, if we misuse that word, that one may have to do such a thing in order to advance in the spiritual journey. that what we would call more or natural or organic means of moving along the path of evolution is that which allows one to do so with the steady pace of realization occurring by the use of catalyst that presents itself to each entity in the daily round of activities. This is a means of utilizing food for growth that comes to each entity and must also be processed as the entity moves through its incarnational path. Therefore, we suggest that each seeker of truth exercise its own free will as to whether it wishes to move more quickly on that path and incur more of a responsibility to utilize what is learned on that path, or if one wishes to move in a manner which is the most generally accepted and utilized manner of utilizing one's daily round of activities and the catalyst that appends therefrom to move forward on the spiritual journey. Is there a further query, my brother? No, thank you so much, Quo. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. Is there another query at this time? Quo, we get so much negative energy from the news that comes in, and that lowers our vibrational levels. I think for nearly all of us, when we receive that, should we limit news that comes in to just our sphere of influence? Or can we give a blessing prior to reading the news that would neutralize any lowering of our vibrational level? It's my sense, Quo, that negative energy is detrimental to our health, and I'm encouraging my patients to avoid that negative energy, but do you have thoughts or recommendations in that regard? I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my brother. This is a very interesting query, for it also partakes of a kind of medicine that you might call negativity in the news that one may process as one wishes. The news is that which is utilizing the old saying of, if it bleeds, it leads, so that there is usually more bad news or negative news than good news. And when one exposes oneself to any type of negative news, there is the opportunity to go in one of two directions, or both directions from time to time. The first direction is to tend to put aside that news because it is so overwhelmingly difficult and devastating in one manner or another. The taking of lives, the loss of lives, and by many or few that occurs daily in every area upon your planet, whether it is family and family, nation, states, or whatever. And this is what you are speaking of. This is what can drain one's ability to feel inspired to be alive within this third density at this time, and might cause one to feel that bleed through stress that comes by imbibing and absorbing the negative qualities of the inhumanity of man to man, people to people, nation to nation. The other possibility is that one may seek an enhancement on the spiritual journey by responding to the negatively oriented information by setting oneself the goals of engaging in the practice of sending love, light, and healing energies to any source of difficulty of negativity upon your planet that is being reported on the news. This is an advanced practice of spiritual seeking, which is most helpful to the conscientious seeker that wishes to take, shall we say, a heavier load of classes in the college system of study, as you might say. This is what you may call the advanced class, and is perfectly a choice of free will for anyone who wishes to undertake it, realizing the difficulties of doing so. But if taking on these difficulties is desired, then the polarization to the positive service to others is also enhanced. Is there a further query, my brother? Question: is there any benefit of offering a blessing prior to reading the news? I am Quo, and am aware of your query, my brother. There would indeed be such a benefit to prepare the self for the apprehension and perception of the news that may or may not be of a negative nature. This would be a very general type of enhancement that would not be able to be more, shall we say, effective if the nature of the news were used, we correct this instrument, were known before the blessing was given. The blessing, when knowing what is this news, is that which is more effective. Is there a further query, my brother? Thank you, Quo. I appreciate it. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. At this time, we shall transfer this contact to the one known as Austin. We are those of Quo. I am Quo, and I am again with this instrument. Is there another query to which we may respond? Thank you, Quo. First, I'll express my gratitude for being included in this teaching. Some of us notice that nature speaks to us in many ways to remind us of oneness. Is there any significance to seeing, say, curtains or veils of zeros and ones? Is there any meaning in that could further direct us to understand oneness with each other? I am Quo, and I'm aware of your query, my sister. Indeed, this question speaks to the aspect of the journey that can utilize cues and take hints from one's environment, and in doing so become more in tune with the self and with the environment around the self in such a way that one recognizes the oneness of all things both within and without. We may speak to specifics or particular aspects of such cues, such as the veils of ones and zeros that you have referred to, but in doing so, we would be addressing a specific singular type of guidance. Instead, we would offer a perspective on this that would be more generally applicable. Cues such as this, while they may be shared collectively or among groups, always have an individual meaning for the self. And even if they are shared and have objective meaning, there is still a deeply personal relationship that each individual may come to such perceptions. It is in developing these relationships with these cues that one may become more and more in tune with the source of the intelligence behind these things. For when we speak of signs and symbols and cues, whether in nature or perceived elsewhere, these things are manifestations of one's guidance system. Whether it is an aspect of the guidance system, referred to as the higher self, or of other discarnate entities who are friends guiding you and helping you along the path. Or more intimately, aspects of the self simply generating or attracting certain circumstances in order to allow you to have certain revelations or insights, or to see signposts asking you to look deeper into the nature of one thing or another. When perceiving these things and asking what the meaning is or how to utilize them more, it is good to take note of those contexts and circumstances around these events and examine the state of the self and the reaction one has not only to the catalyst, but to the circumstances surrounding this catalyst, and to then take this reaction or this relationship into your meditative practice and explore it by holding the feelings and the responses within your consciousness and allow them to fill your being. In doing so, you may find that these things that you have perceived begin to speak to you through this practice. And by continuing this practice, you come into a deeper and deeper relationship with your environment in such a way that you may see intuitively within nearly all circumstances and all catalysts that comes before you, meaning and guidance and opportunity for you that is personal for you on your journey. This is one of the most powerful tools that seekers within your environment can utilize, for you experience a veiled reality in which you are unaware for the most part of the vast intelligence and awareness contained within your unconscious mind. And these reflections that you see in your outward environment are simply manifestations attempting to guide you through that veil and come into contact with that aspect of yourself that recognizes and understands fully the oneness of self with all things and of self with the one infinite creator. Is there a follow-up to this query, my sister? No, thank you. I am Quo, and we thank you, my sister. Is there another query in the circle to which we may respond? Question. Quo, is it accurate to tell patients that their lives unfolded the way they were supposed to? That they didn't miss any opportunities, though they may have experienced detours? Or is that just true for some individuals and not for others? I am Quo, and I'm aware of the query, my brother. We tread carefully in responding to this question, for we have a perspective from where we exist that is unveiled, where we can witness the guiding path of each individual and intelligence that goes into the manifestation of circumstances and experiences, and can affirm that when you share such statements and insight with those wishing to be healed and understand their circumstances, it is an accurate statement from what we can see. However, the impact of such a statement within your reality may carry with it a certain emotional charge or a certain implication. If the person who is receiving this message is not prepared or does not have a certain spiritual perception that allows this statement to be seated within the self in a way that is couched in love and understanding and acceptance, it has the potential to generate further catalyst and distortion. Thus, we encourage that such knowledge is shared through a deepened relationship of healer and patient, that such space is generated for it to be received in a way that is accepted and understood and does not perpetuate more emotional attachments to these circumstances that are being referred to. Is there a follow-up to this query, my brother? No, wow, Quo, thank you very much. Very valuable. I am Quo, and we thank you, my brother. At this time, we will transfer the contact to the one known as Gary. We are Quo. We are those of Quo, and we open ourselves to this query to which this circle may wish to vibrate. We are Quo. Question. Quo, this is W, and I've shared with this circle where I am now in my journey, and I sense that the person I can see, what direction this is going, but I guess my concern is, and the question is, what is it that I might need to know now? And what might I expect, because my work is taking me far beyond my traditional work with ministry to a particular people. Now I'm getting opportunities to go to many other places. So what is it that I might need to know now, and what might I expect? We are those of Quo. We greet you in the one known as W, and we thank you for the respect afforded to us in looking to us to fill in this blank. We sense the ardentness of your journey. We sense the dedication to your path and your desire to do that which is most aligned with your highest and best in service to others. We of the Confederation cannot fill in that blank for you by stating specifically what it is you need to know at this moment, for to do so would be to short-circuit your own path of learning and exercise of free will, and it would be an imbalance in making us learn teachers for you instead of teach learners unto you. But we may say in encouragement, my brother, that you cannot make a mistake, and that this process that you are undergoing of asking this question in which you have asked us, has been echoed in your own heart in your own internal inquiry. The question is a means of activating your inner compass, that it may sense northwardly, shall we say, direction that you wish to travel, and engaging this question and being receptive to that which may come up for you, whether in your own emotional body, your physical body, your thoughts, your intuitions, your dreams, or those outward points of connection that may manifest for you. A chance remark that an associate makes, a book you see on the shelf, and so forth. Infinitely that guidance will meet this question. It may not arrive as one complete picture or one master plan that says you shall, or it is best to pursue this thread and then do this thing and then make this commitment. Instead, it may be just a gentle sense or intuition to look into this particular lead, have a conversation with this particular person, and follow that and see what comes up for you, my brother. And then, through such means, one step may lead to the next, and the next, until you look back and see that you are walking that path and have made that decision that had somewhat befuddled you or given you pause before. We feel of you, my brother, that you have long exercised and trusted in an inner sense of resonance, of knowing that which is for you and that which is not for you, where you may be of service and where you may not be of service, perhaps not exercised perfectly, for who among your peoples dances with flawless skill, placing the foot precisely and always where it needs to go without stumbling? But you have hearkened to this voice which has helped to guide you upon and in the seeking of that high road, because, in large part, you have magnetized your heart to help your fellow sisters and brothers and planet in your own way, as all third density entities do. You have sought the balance of the spiritual development of the self and the being available for reaching out to others, that you may shoulder or a heart or a hug or a word and trust in yourself. You are strong upon the path. May we ask if there is another query, my brother? No, thank you for that insight and clarity. We thank you, my brother. Our hearts open with you. We know that this is not an easy plane by any means. When faced with a decision, confusion and distortion, energies of doubt and apprehension and fear may make the way seem very unclear and may cause more pain at times than peace. But that blazing sword, which can cut through self-limiting energies, is that energy known to us as faith. We would suggest to each seeker in this room who may receive our words that faith is always available to you, however far you have perceived yourself to have wandered in your journey. It takes only the small trusting invocation of faith, and the world that opens up to you becomes available. Is there another query to which we may respond in this circle? We are those of Quo. Question: Quo, is prayer of two people versus one person, the multiplier effect is more than double, is that correct? We are those of Quo and would ask if you could repeat and perhaps rephrase this query. Question: so if one person prays, that might have an impact. If two people have joined together in making the same prayer, you would think that mathematically that would double the impact. But when to pray together, is that a bigger multiplier, 3 times greater, 10 times greater? We are those of Quo and appreciate the rephrasing of the question. Indeed, each unit of consciousness, you might say, that is a mind-body-spirit complex, is the Creator made manifest and has capacity to create change in the illusion. Each is possessed of some degree of power. But when consciousness and intention and purpose combine one to another, and then another, and then another, that power and the opening for change or impact which it creates is indeed multiplied. The manner of this multiplication is a factor of doubling. With each new entity added to the previous entity or set of entities, the product of that power is doubled, and then doubled again. With the addition of the next entity and doubled again, so on indefinitely, such that, as is expressed in numbers, mathematical result of this doubling reaches into the heavens with size and power and numbers outside the grasp of the intellectual mind to some degree. Thus, it is that group work upon the positive polarity is greatly enhanced and expanded when your hearts link together in shared purpose, in mutual trust and harmony between you, that you may share a collective intention between you of service to others. There are pairings and groupings which may seek an intention which is not quite or at all service to others. But when beings align for the purpose of love and light, and empowerment and alleviation of suffering, a property emerges that is greater than the sum of its parts, much, much greater. Each may become a node in a circuit. You might see it that channels and focuses that power for the service to the Creator and other self or other selves, ultimately for the lightening of the planetary vibration. This has dimensions which move deeply into the esoteric, of course, but this is not so esoteric or occult for you, for each in this circle has the power of this group and of the possibilities that open in spiritual seeking when those gentle among you work together in peaceful purpose. As was discussed prior to this channeling, such opportunities become quite vivid when you gather, as was true for some in this group who gathered recently at that which is known as your coming home to a new earth. By virtue of coming together with shared purpose and intention in a container into which each moves for the purpose of service to others, the Creator becomes more present, shall we say, or at least more available to that seemingly separate self which lives its existence generally feeling cut off from the omnipresence of the One. And in that magic that is the Creator come alive and made available to the self is the profound ability to uncoil, relax, and abide more strongly in that sense of the true home, and to see the self more clearly, to exercise the self's powers in love and light in service more strongly. And the more that those powers are given to the group and exercised collectively in a unified fashion, the greater that this property of the universe about which you have inquired is activated. May we ask if there is a follow-up question to this line of inquiry, my brother? We are Quo. Very powerful, Quo. Thank you so much. We thank you for the interesting and significant questions that you have brought to us today, and that we may share a slice of our perspective. At this time, and with gratitude for all, we transfer our contact to the one known as Jim. We are those of Quo. I am Quo, and I'm once again with this instrument. We would like to thank each person within this group, which has asked questions and has been present and has given many thoughts to us that we may respond to in a manner which we are hopeful has helped each to move further along their spiritual journey. This is a journey which each of us of Quo have made ourselves within the third density illusion. We know how difficult it is to perceive the path that lies before you in a manner which you wish to travel each day of your life. For much of what you learn is learned through suffering and disillusionment, adversity, and the times of doubt. We are most amazed and inspired that you are able to take these times and use them as food for growth and move forward on your spiritual journeys. And we are very grateful to see that you are here in a group that can support each other on the path of seeking the unification of the one infinite Creator, which each is and which each shall discover at some point in the spiritual path. At this time, we shall take our leave of this instrument and this group. We leave you as we found you in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. We are known to you as those of Quo, Adonai, Vasu, Boragas. This particular channeling is wonderful and carries so much amazing information, and I'll definitely be returning to this one. We find out about the full moon and the powers of using the moon, that you can use and guide the energies of the moon to enhance your own chakras or energies. We learn about plant medicine, and when done properly with respect and meditation, can enhance and intensify your spiritual journey. We learn that prayers by many people can have a multiplying effect and can really enhance, as we've discussed before. So if you pray in groups, know that the power of it is being doubled or multiplied. Something that Neville Goddard said is not as important, but I agree completely that when people pray in groups that it's much more sufficient and powerful. So let me know what your favorite part of this channeling was. You can find all episodes of The Reality Revolution at therealityrevolution.com. I'd be honored if you checked out my art. You can find it at www.newearth.art. And welcome to The Reality Revolution.